Schools are preparing to roll out rapid antigen tests to students and staff ahead of the school year in New South Wales and Victoria. Students and teachers are being asked to take a test twice a week for the first 4 weeks as part of a COVID-safe return to school plan. Around 20 million tests are being distributed to government, independent and Catholic schools, as well as childcare centres. Masks will be mandatory for staff and high school students in New South Wales and grades 3 up in Victoria.
1 week until school gates reopen in New South Wales, the government has revealed its plans for getting kids back into classrooms safely.
As a parent, I know that many parents across the state are anxious about bringing kids back to school. Importantly, though, we can assure parents and teachers right across New South Wales that we can do so in a safe way.
Rapid antigen tests will be provided by the government to primary and secondary students and teachers across the state.
So we are distributing those kits out to school communities as we speak. We have had more than 4 million go out already. More than 6 million will be out by Tuesday evening in preparation for the return to school for students on the 1st of February.
Teachers and students will be required to test before they return and twice weekly for the first 4 weeks of Term 1. Similar to last year, masks will return as part of the daily school routine. They're compulsory for teachers and secondary students and are highly recommended for students in years 3 and above. Visits to school will be limited and COVID-safe plans must be implemented for excursions and other activities.
A lot of these areas we put in place last year, but we want to ensure here in New South Wales that closing schools is the last resort.
If students return a positive result, families will be required to report it to the school and to New South Wales Health via the Service New South Wales app, in line with the current requirements. Schools will no longer be required to close or contact trace if there are positive cases.
We're really moving schools in line with what we see in community settings, but parents and carers and family members will be notified if there is COVID in your school community, so again that you can monitor for symptoms in your children and make sure you're using those rapid antigen tests that we've provided twice a week.
Positive students or students who are close contacts will be provided with material to learn from home as schools transition to a new COVID normal.
There's no doubt that there's going to be some challenges and some difficulties during Term 1 this year, particularly probably in the first 3 to 4 weeks of the term. But despite that, there is the strongest support for students to return to school, as the Minister said, Day 1, Term 1.
With the experience of the last 2 years, this framework, I think parents can be very confident that every measure that's been put in place has their students' interests at heart.
It's important that we minimise the disruption. It's important that our students are at school, and I'm really confident with the plans that we have in place to help achieve that.
Authorities say transmission in schools is likely to mirror that of the community and are warning to expect an uptick in cases.
We will expect to see cases amongst children and staff attending schools. The twice weekly testing regime that the Premier has spoken about will allow us to pick up those cases a little earlier.
But the message remains clear. If a child has symptoms, keep them at home.
So please do not send your child to school if they have symptoms. Instead, get them tested, and even if they've got a negative test on that first day, please keep them home and do a repeat test, and only send them back if there's an alternate diagnosis. So, for instance, if they've got hay fever and you're clear that that's the cause.
The message is, if you are unwell with COVID, please rest, please take care of yourself. You probably won't often hear an Education Minister say, don't worry about school, but for those few days, if you're not feeling the best, please take care of yourself and we'll welcome you back to school when you're well again.
Kenny Heatley, Sky News, Sydney.